Imagine raising your daughter for years, loving her, supporting her, and doing everything to give her the best life, only to find out that you weren't even invited to her wedding. How would you feel? Betrayed, angry, lost? That's exactly what happened to me. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell. Leave a comment telling me how you would react if this happened to you. I had always considered myself a good father, someone who was there for my daughter, Emily, no matter what. From the moment she was born, I dedicated myself to providing for her, guiding her, and watching her grow. Her first steps, her first words, her graduation day, every important milestone in her life, I was there. I took pride in being a part of her life, in being the father who was always present, always supportive. But things began to change as she grew older. There were subtle shifts in her behavior, moments when she became distant, when she would brush off my advice or disregard my attempts to bond. At first, I thought it was just part of growing up. Adolescence is tough, and I understood that. But as Emily entered her 20s, the distance between us began to widen in ways I couldn't ignore. She met a man, and like any father, I was protective. I didn't like how quickly they became serious, how she seemed to put so much of herself into the relationship. At first, I tried to stay neutral, reminding myself that she was an adult now, capable of making her own decisions. But there was something about him, something that didn't sit right with me. I couldn't put my finger on it, but I didn't trust him. I voiced my concerns to my wife, Karen, but she brushed it off, telling me I was overreacting. Let her live her life. It's her decision, she would say. It stung every time. I knew I wasn't being irrational, but Karen never seemed to understand my worries. I had always been protective of Emily, always wanted what was best for her. But Karen was quick to tell me I was just being an overbearing father. Then, as time went on, I started noticing that Emily wasn't just pulling away from me. She was pulling away from our entire family. She started canceling dinners, skipping family events, and when she did show up, she was distant, almost cold. Karen chalked it up to stress, saying that Emily was just busy with work and her relationship. But the distance felt intentional, and I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. I began to ask questions. I reached out to her friends, tried to get her to open up. But Emily was evasive. She would change the subject, offer vague answers, or just shut me out completely. Every attempt to connect felt like a failure. Slowly, it became clear that the distance wasn't just between her and me. It was between her and our family. We had lost touch, and I didn't know why. Then came the invitation, or more accurately, the lack of one. It was a normal evening when Karen handed me the wedding invitation. She looked at me with a strange expression, almost apologetic, as if she were preparing for some kind of conflict. But when I opened the envelope and read the words, I couldn't believe it. Emily's wedding was coming up, and there, in the invitation, were the names of everyone except me. No mention of my name. I had been completely excluded. I stared at the invitation for what felt like an eternity. Was this a mistake? Was she seriously not inviting me to her wedding? Karen noticed the shock on my face and immediately started to explain. It's not what you think, she said quickly, trying to ease the tension. Emily said it's just a small wedding, and she wanted to keep it intimate. But the more she tried to justify it, the more it didn't make sense. I had been a part of every major moment of Emily's life. How could she not invite me to the most important one? My heart sank as I realized the truth. Emily had made a conscious decision to leave me out of her wedding, and that hurt more than I could ever put into words. Karen tried to calm me down, telling me not to overreact, but how could I not? I had been there for Emily every step of the way, and now, in what should have been the happiest moment of my daughter's life, I was being left behind. I couldn't understand it. Why wasn't I good enough to be a part of her special day? The emotional toll of that moment was like a punch to the gut. It wasn't just the exclusion from the wedding. It was the realization that Emily had been pushing me away for so long, and I had missed all the signs. The disappointment, the betrayal, the feeling of being completely invisible in my own daughter's life, it all hit me at once, and I didn't know how to handle it. The night after receiving the wedding invitation, I barely slept. My mind raced with questions, doubts, and anger. How could she do this to me? Why wasn't I even important enough to be there on her wedding day? My mind kept returning to the moments we had shared, the birthdays, the school plays, the tough times when I had been the one to comfort her. How had it all led to this? The hurt was overwhelming, and no matter how hard I tried to push it aside, it consumed me. The next day, I couldn't take it anymore. I knew I had to confront Emily. I couldn't just sit by and accept being left out of her life, not when I had given so much to her. She needed to understand how deeply her actions had hurt me. Karen tried to stop me, to reassure me that everything would work itself out, but I couldn't wait any longer. I called Emily and asked her to meet me. Her voice was tentative on the other end of the phone. "Dad, what's this about?" she asked, her tone wary. "I don't think we need to have a conversation about this." But I was determined. "I need to see you, Emily. We need to talk about the wedding." When we met, I could tell she was already uncomfortable. She had always been able to read me, and the tension in the air was palpable. She stood there in front of me, arms crossed, her face defensive, almost as if she were preparing for an argument. "What's the problem, Dad? It's just a wedding. It's not the end of the world." The words hit me harder than I anticipated. It was as if she had brushed away everything we had shared, as if it didn't matter at all. I tried to stay calm, but the pain of being dismissed so casually burned inside me. "No, Emily," I said, my voice shaking with frustration. "It's not just a wedding. It's your wedding. I'm your father, and I wasn't even invited. How could you do that to me? How could you leave me out of the most important day of your life?" She looked away, clearly uncomfortable with the direction the conversation was taking. "Dad, you've been so difficult lately, always criticizing my decisions. Why do you think I didn't want you there?" Her words hit me like a slap in the face. "Difficult? I've been trying to protect you, to be there for you. What exactly have I done that's so bad? I've always supported you, always loved you, no matter what. But you've been shutting me out for months. And now this? This is how you repay me?" Emily's eyes welled up with tears, and for a moment, I saw the girl I used to know, the one who would run into my arms for comfort when life felt overwhelming. But in that moment, she was gone. In her place was a woman who felt distant, almost unreachable. "I didn't want to hurt you," she whispered, her voice breaking. "But I felt like you were pushing me away. You were always telling me what to do, how to live my life. I needed to make decisions for myself, Dad. And when it came to this wedding, I just didn't want you there. It wasn't about you. It was about me, and what I felt was best for me." I stood there, stunned, unable to process what she had just said. How could she believe that I was the one pushing her away? I had always been there for her, always tried to guide her with love and care. But I had never tried to control her. I never wanted to suffocate her. This was about my presence in her life, not about control. This was about being a father to his daughter, about being part of her milestones. "I didn't know I was making you feel that way," I said quietly. "But all I wanted was to be there for you, Emily. I didn't want to lose you. I never thought you'd want to shut me out." She looked down at the ground, her hands trembling. "I never wanted to lose you either, Dad. But I needed space to figure out who I am, without anyone's expectations. I needed to feel like I wasn't living in anyone's shadow. I'm sorry. I didn't mean for it to hurt you." For the first time, I saw the raw pain in her eyes, the same pain that had been in my heart. I realized that, in a way, We had both been trapped in a cycle of misunderstanding. She had pushed me away because she felt stifled, and I had reacted by holding on tighter. Neither of us knew how to break free from the distance that had grown between us. I understand that, Emily, I said, my voice softening. But I still don't understand why you couldn't tell me this. Why you couldn't talk to me before shutting me out completely. I'm still your father. I still love you, even if you don't always want me to be there. There was silence between us for a long time. Emily wiped her eyes and stepped closer. Dad, I'm so sorry. I never meant for things to get this bad. I've made mistakes, and I don't want to lose you. But I also want you to understand that I need to live. The conversation with Emily left me feeling a mix of emotions. Part of me wanted to be angry, to demand that she see things my way, to tell her how much her actions had hurt me. But another part of me understood where she was coming from. It was clear she had been struggling with the pressure of expectations, and somewhere along the way she felt suffocated, not by me, but by the weight of being constantly watched and guided. I had never meant to put that pressure on her. I just wanted to be there, to offer advice, and to protect her from making mistakes. But now I was realizing that my love, though well-intentioned, had been misinterpreted. The more I thought about it, the more I began to understand. Emily had been trying to find her own identity, separate from the influence of her family. She had spent so many years being my daughter, my pride and joy, that she hadn't been able to find her own path. And I had unknowingly reinforced that by being so involved in every aspect of her life. I had been her father, but I hadn't been able to let her go. I hadn't given her the space to grow into her own person. But even as I understood this, there was still a part of me that couldn't reconcile the fact that I wasn't invited to her wedding. I had been there for every other milestone in her life, every celebration, every heartache. And yet, in this moment of joy, her wedding, the beginning of her new life, I was excluded. I couldn't help but feel betrayed, abandoned. That evening, I sat alone in my study, my thoughts heavy. I had spent the whole day thinking about my conversation with Emily, replaying her words in my head. I understood her need for independence, her desire to step out of the shadow I had cast for so long. But in return, she had cast me aside. And it stung. I kept thinking about the wedding. I wondered who would be there. Would she have her friends by her side, her new in-laws, her partner's family? Where was I supposed to fit in? How could she not see that I deserved to be there? Standing by her side, watching her step into this new chapter of her life? I had always promised to be there for her, to walk with her through every season of her life. But now I was being told that my presence wasn't wanted. As I sat there, the feeling of loss grew stronger. It wasn't just about the wedding anymore. It was about everything. The more I thought about it, the more I realized that my relationship with Emily had been slowly eroding, piece by piece, over the years. Our bond had started to fray, and I had missed the signs. I hadn't seen how she had been retreating from me, how she had been pulling away, emotionally distancing herself. I hadn't noticed the subtle changes in her behavior, the way she had started to keep things from me, the way she had started to make her own decisions without seeking my guidance. It hit me like a ton of bricks. I had failed as a father in some crucial ways. I had been so focused on trying to protect her, trying to keep her safe that I had forgotten to trust her. I hadn't allowed her to make mistakes on her own, to learn and grow through her own choices. I had been controlling, not intentionally, but by not letting go when she needed me to. The realization left me feeling hollow, as though I had missed my chance to truly connect with my daughter in the way she needed. And now, that distance between us seemed insurmountable. That night, I didn't sleep. I kept thinking about what I had said to Emily and how she had responded. The hurt in her eyes when she spoke of needing space, The way she had distanced herself from me left me with a deep sense of regret. Maybe I should have seen it coming. Maybe I should have been more aware of the changes in our relationship. But there was no going back now. The wedding was only a few days away, and I wasn't invited. My heart ached with the thought of her walking down the aisle without me there to give her away, to offer my blessing as her father. I knew I couldn't change her decision. I couldn't force her to include me, no matter how much I wanted to be there. But the question still lingered. How could I rebuild our relationship? How could I find a way back into her life without being pushy or overbearing? The next day, I decided to write Emily a letter. I needed to express everything I was feeling, the pain, the disappointment, but also the love I still had for her. I didn't know if it would change anything, but it was the only way I could think of to let her know that I wasn't giving up on us. I wasn't giving up on being her father, even if she didn't want me there at her wedding. I wrote from the heart, explaining that I understood her need for independence, but that I still loved her and always would. I told her that no matter what, I would always be there for her, whether she wanted me to be or not. It was a simple letter, but it was my last attempt to reach out to her before the wedding. I wasn't sure if she would read it or if it would make a difference, but I had to try. It was the only way I knew how to begin to heal the rift between us. Days passed after I wrote the letter, and I found myself anxiously checking my phone every few minutes. I couldn't help it. I was desperate for any sign that Emily had received it, any indication that she was open to reconnecting. But the silence that followed was deafening. I had poured my heart into that letter, yet Emily hadn't reached out. I couldn't tell if she had even read it. My anxiety grew with every passing hour, and the realization that I may have lost her for good began to settle in. The day before the wedding, I was in the kitchen when my phone buzzed. I grabbed it almost instinctively, hoping, praying that it was Emily. When I saw her name on the screen, my heart skipped a beat. She had finally responded. "Dad, can we talk?" the text read. I felt an immediate rush of relief mixed with nervous excitement. Finally, after all this time, she was reaching out. I quickly typed out a response, asking her to meet me at the park, the same place where we had spent countless afternoons when she was a little girl. It was a place where we had shared our best moments, and I hoped it could be the same place where we would begin to rebuild our broken relationship. She agreed. As I arrived at the park, the familiar sights and sounds tugged at my heart. The soft breeze rustled the leaves in the trees, and I could hear the distant laughter of children playing. I sat on the same bench where we had once sat together waiting for Emily to arrive. Every moment felt like an eternity, and with each passing minute, my mind raced. What would she say? What was her response going to be? Would she even accept my apology? Then I saw her. Emily was walking toward me, her head slightly lowered, her posture tense. She had always been so full of life, so energetic, but today she looked like someone carrying the weight of the world on her shoulders. As she reached the bench, she hesitated for a moment before sitting down beside me. The silence between us felt heavy, thick with unspoken words. "I read your letter," Emily said quietly, her voice barely above a whisper. Her eyes were fixed on the ground as though she couldn't bring herself to look at me. "And I've been thinking a lot about everything." I felt a lump form in my throat. She had read it. She had listened. I knew this was the moment where everything could either change for the better or fall apart forever. "I want you to know that I'm sorry for shutting you out," Emily continued, finally looking up at me. Her eyes were filled with tears, and I could see the pain in them, the guilt she had been carrying all this time. "I never wanted to hurt you. I didn't know how to handle everything. I felt like I was losing myself, and I didn't know how to tell you. I didn't know how to make you understand." I nodded, my heart aching for her. I understood now. I had pushed too hard, tried to control things when all she had needed was the freedom to make her own choices. I had failed her in that way. I'm sorry too, Emily. I didn't realize how much pressure I was putting on you. I just wanted to protect you, but I see now that I made it harder for you to find your own path. We sat there for a while in silence, both of us trying to find the words to bridge the gap that had formed between us. It was painful, but necessary. For the first time in a long while, I felt like we were truly communicating, like we were both trying to understand each other rather than just talking past one another. Finally, Emily spoke again. I know you're hurt that I didn't invite you to the wedding. I can't undo that. But I want you to know that it wasn't because I don't love you. It was because I felt like I needed to do this on my own. I needed to stand on my own 2 feet, Dad. I needed to feel like I could make this decision without anyone's approval. I understood. I hadn't seen it before, but now in that moment it made sense. She had been seeking independence, and in her search for that, she had distanced herself from me. But I knew she wasn't rejecting me entirely. She just needed space to grow, to step into her own life. I understand, Emily, I said softly, my voice full of emotion. I really do, and I'm proud of you. I may not have shown it before, but I want you to know that I'm always here for you. Even if I don't always understand your choices, I'll always love you. Emily smiled through her tears, and for the first time in what felt like forever, I saw the girl I had once known, the one who was full of life, full of love. She was still there, and now we were both healing, both trying to find our way back to each other. I'm sorry, Dad, she whispered, her voice breaking. I just wanted to be my own person, but I didn't mean to push you away. I put my arm around her, pulling her close. It's okay, sweetheart. It's okay. The days that followed our conversation at the park were a mix of quiet, healing, and reflection. Emily and I had opened up to each other in ways we hadn't in years, and it felt like the first steps toward truly understanding one another. The weight of the wedding was still on my mind, but I knew now that it wasn't about the event. It was about the relationship, the connection between father and daughter that had to be repaired first. The weeks after that heart-to-heart meeting were not easy, but they were filled with progress. Emily and I started spending more time together, but this time there were no expectations, no pressure, no trying to control the outcome. We simply tried to enjoy each other's company, to rediscover what had made our bond so strong in the past. Emily invited me to dinner one evening, and I accepted, trying my best to leave the past behind me and focus on the present. When I arrived at the restaurant, I saw her sitting there, looking more relaxed than I had seen her in months. It was clear she was still navigating her own emotions, but there was a calmness to her that made my heart swell with hope. Dad, I know I didn't invite you to the wedding, but I really want you to be a part of my life moving forward, Emily said softly as I sat down. Her voice was sincere, and the pain from the past seemed to be fading, replaced by something that felt like the beginning of a new chapter. I appreciate that, Emily, I replied, my voice thick with emotion. I want to be part of your life, too, more than anything. I may not have understood what you needed at the time, but I'm here now. We'll figure this out together. Dinner that night was full of laughter, stories, and moments of genuine connection. It wasn't perfect. It never would be, after everything that had happened. But it was a start, and that was all I needed. I had spent so many years trying to protect Emily, trying to hold onto the image of the little girl I once knew, that I had neglected the fact that she was growing into an adult who needed space to navigate her own life. I began to understand that love wasn't about control or expectations, it was about respect. Respecting her decisions, even when I didn't agree with them. Respecting her need for independence, even if it meant stepping back and letting her figure things out on her own. A few days later, Emily reached out again, asking me to join her for a walk in the park. She had mentioned that she was still struggling with some of the emotional fallout from her wedding. It had been a beautiful day for her, but she also felt the absence of family, of the people who had once been there for her. I agreed, of course. This was her time to talk, and I wanted to be there for her. As we walked through the park, she opened up about the wedding and the mixed emotions she had felt. "It was beautiful, but it wasn't complete without you, Dad," she said. "I wanted you there, but I felt like I had to go through this alone. I was scared. I was scared that if I invited you, it would just bring up old wounds." "I understand," I said, nodding. "It wasn't easy for me either. But I want you to know I never wanted to make you feel alone. I just didn't know how to give you the space you needed." We stopped by a bench and sat down, both of us taking in the quiet beauty of the park around us. The world felt calmer in this moment, like we were both at a point where we could breathe again. "I don't want our relationship to always be this complicated, Dad," Emily said softly. "I don't want to keep pushing you away. I know I've made mistakes, but I'm trying to find a balance. I just need time. I just need to figure out who I am and what I want." "I get that," I replied, my voice filled with compassion. "You don't have to have everything figured out, Emily. I'm here and I'm not going anywhere. Take all the time you need. I'm proud of you. I always have been." We sat there for a long time in comfortable silence as the sun began to set. The weight that had once felt so heavy between us was lifting, piece by piece. We had a long road ahead of us, but for the first time in a while, I felt like we were on the right path. It wasn't going to be perfect, but it was progress. In the weeks that followed, Emily and I continued to rebuild our relationship. We had difficult conversations, moments of frustration, but also moments of joy. I learned how to step back when she needed space, and she learned to lean on me when she needed support. The wedding, though still a painful reminder of the hurt that had passed between us, became a turning point, a chance for us both to grow, to forgive, and to move forward. As for the future, I didn't know what it held, but I was no longer focused on trying to control it. I had my daughter back in my life, and that was enough. We would take it one step at a time, and I would always be there for her, no matter where life took us.